Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live stream. We are live today with Thomas from the Global Teach in Agriculture Network. And so I'm excited to be here today. My name is Donna Guerin, founder of Global Lighthouse Studios. We connect teachers and students around the world through music and the arts. And I'm really excited to get started today and learn all about the great things that they are doing over at Global Teach Ag. So if you want to go ahead and get started, Thomas, the floor is yours.
Sure thing. Thank you, Donna. And we at the Global Teach Ag Network, as I point to my lovely sticker in the background, are excited that we get to work with Global Lighthouse Studios, excited about this adventure of edible essentials as one of their new projects and programs that they're working on. Because what we very much focus on is, hey, how do we talk about agriculture? How do we talk about food? And how all these things interact and affect us as people. And then also, how do we talk about education and how do we teach about these different subjects? So one of the things that we think is really cool is getting to teach and talk about these things. So instead of just saying all the things up front of, hey, what we do, I want us to go on a little bit of a learning exercise ourselves, and then I'll dive into the back end a little bit more of what the Global Teach Ag Network does and is about. So that being said, I got some lovely slides that are pulling up in just a second. And I have an overarching question for us, because I know that there's different educators and students and even just people on social media that are probably tuned in right now. But for all of us, my overarching question is, how do I have an impact on global challenges? There's a lot of different things happening around the world, things that concern us. And it can feel really overwhelming when we think about, what role do I have? Do I have a role? Or are these global challenges just going to continue to persist and get worse year after year? So that's my overarching question. How do I have an impact on global challenges? As we think about this, I want us to briefly be thinking of what are some of these global issues that we most personally are concerned about. And I do want to make a caveat on the front end that global does not equal international per se. For this to be a global issue, it can also impact you locally. Like food insecurity is a global issue. It exists all across the world, but there are likely people food insecure in the school you attend, in the community that you're involved with. So that's my first reflective question to have in the back of our mind as I go through the next couple of things. What global issues are we most concerned about? For me personally, one of the things that I'm most concerned about is food insecurity. A little bit of background on myself. I grew up in a small rural community on a dairy farm. I loved it, but it wasn't exactly making a lot of money. So, we're a family of 5, and sometimes it was a little bit concerning of, okay, hey, what is food going to look like? Is it going to be the most nutritious that we have? And I was thankful for different programs that, like the free and reduced lunch program here in the US, that was supporting us and getting us good, nutritious, quality food. Anywho, I'm doing the thing where I get excited and go on a side tangent. We only got a little bit of time here, so I'm gonna keep rocking and rolling to the next part.
Wonderful.
There's different organizations that have asked the same question of what are the most concerning global challenges. One of those being UNESCO. So the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, they've asked this same question. What are people most concerned about? In 2020, they had a survey that was open. Anybody in the world could fill it out. They had 15,000 people from all across the globe that ranked 11 global challenges and saying, okay, we want you to give us your top 4. What are you most concerned about? Then that continuation of that prompt was that they felt most worried about for a peaceful society in 2030. This was then published in the World in 2030 Public Survey Report. I'm going to give you the top 4 to simulate kind of how it worked out for an average of people. They had to list 4. I'm going to give you the top 4 global challenges that showed up as a result of this report. Number 1, being climate change and the loss of biodiversity. With, once again, as a reminder, there's 15,000 people that responded to this, and 10,000 of those people had climate change and loss of biodiversity in their top 4 as something that they are concerned about. They see in the world, they see, changing temperatures globally. They see how it's affecting ecosystems and how that bleeds into different food security aspects or habitat aspects. That's one thing. Second global challenge, violence and conflict. So looking at both, and the report will cite more specific examples where this includes things like, okay, like just terrorism across the world being one of the top things that people reported as being concerned about, but also just conflict in general, like war, peace, those kinds of things. Global challenge 3 was identified as discrimination and inequality, and that feels very much tied to that second piece too of, okay, this is very much a social issue, a human rights issue, but how are we making sure that people are treated equally, have equal opportunities, and that's across the board, across the globe. And that looks very different from region to region and country to country. And then global challenge number 4 was lack of food, water, and housing. And you'll see with 2, 3, and 4, all of them had around 6,000 plus respondents that said, hey, this is in my top 4. So this last one is, okay, these essential needs that we as human beings have, being concerned about, is this lacking in our community? Is food lacking? Is water lacking? Is housing lacking? And once again, there's 11 challenges here. I just wanted to give you the top 4 and then when we sit back and think of these things, we can get into all these different statistics of, man, here's how many people are food insecure. Here's how many people don't have access to clean drinking water. Here is, how many people have been directly impacted as a result of war and conflict. And we can get really, really, really overwhelmed really quickly with what's going on. I want us to be able to focus on a little bit of, where do we go from here, though? It is such a blessing to be able to see, hey, there are things wrong, and to have clear things that we are able to work towards. But how do we set goals? How do we move forward in a way that's productive to address these 4 challenges and the other ones listed in that report? So a different way to talk about this, and a main way that we communicate as the Global Teach Ag Network with our educators and educational programs, is through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, where it's a different framework instead of those 11 challenges that UNESCO put together. These are 17 goals that, hey, how do we in the future, these were set for 2030 and they're working on the next set of these because we're not going to get to all of these by 2030, but how do we set this benchmark for the world and work towards getting there? Ones that I want to highlight that seem like they directly connect to what we just talked about. 13, climate action. 15, life on land, connecting that first challenge of biodiversity loss and climate change. 0, hunger, clean water and sanitation. 2 and 6, connecting to that last one of lack of food and water. And then there's a variety to connect to that lack of housing, but also there's 16 of peace, justice, strong institutions. 10 of reduced inequalities. Gender equality at 5. All those challenges that we just saw translated into different goals that we can work on. And if you visit the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals website, they do a great job of breaking these down into different targets and indicators. So if you are a student here, you're interested in learning more, it can get broken down into really small chunks where I'm like, okay, how do I address, sustainable cities and communities? How do I address that as an issue? And you can go to their website and it'll help break it down into smaller chunks for it. Or if you're watching this as an educator and you're like, how do I teach about this? Those targets and indicators can translate into some different objectives and standards that you can use in your learning. So global challenges, they exist. We can translate those into some goals that we can set for the world that we want to work towards. But my curious question is, where do I see these problems intersecting, and where does the Global Teach Ag Network see these problems intersecting? First and foremost, we see them with people. People filled out these surveys, people identified these as the issues and challenges that we see in the world. But also, they are the prominent challenges because they directly affect people. And when we look at sustainability as a whole, there's the social and the environmental aspects that connect, but also the economic. All of those flow into, how do we do this sustainably for people and the planet? So there's people, but then for us, we also see that there's an essential connection to agriculture in all of these different goals, all those 17 goals. And if I go back ever so slightly to that last slide and talk about, agriculture, I'm sure that some of us is like instantly like, oh, I can see connection here to life below water, connection here to zero hunger. But others of us who may not be as familiar with agriculture or may not know firmly what all does agriculture entail might be looking at this and like, I don't see it. How does agriculture connect? In the interest of time, I'm just going to give 3 simple ways where agriculture connects to these 17 challenges, and then give us a couple moments for you to stop listening to me and do some independent research, and then we'll dive back into some more things. But according to the World Health Organization in 2023 report, there's 2.33 billion people that have faced moderate or severe food insecurity throughout that year. So food production, but also making sure that that food is being marketed through the correct systems and transported through the correct systems that agriculture has an impact on. That's one way that this connects. A different thing, and there's various studies in various global organizations that point to this linkage, but we looked at that second issue of violence and conflict. For conflict and food insecurity, they're closely linked issues where when we see conflict arise, sometimes it is due to the lack of available food and resources in the area, or when conflict arises, it increases the amount of food insecurity and instability that's in that area. And then the last point I'll make really quickly is there's 1 billion people that work within agriculture across the world. The statistics from the International Labor Organization based out of the United Nations. With that being said, there's a lot of people already doing this work. So there's people in agriculture, and we can join those people in that workforce, or we can be outside the agriculture industry with an interest in learning about these topics and connecting in these topics, but not necessarily doing it every single day, just having a connection to it, seeing, oh, this is important to be a part of the conversation as we look towards solutions. But the one piece I did want to, as a member of the Penn State College of Agricultural Sciences, I wanted to leave you with in this first half is if you want to address global challenges, you can do that through a career in agriculture. You can do that in the way that I get to do it, which I think is super fun, of getting to be in agricultural education and teach people about agriculture and get to come alongside them and preparing future teachers to also teach others about agriculture. You can do that by working with field crops. You can do that by working with animals. You can do that by working in research. You can do that by working with people in communities. There's a variety of different ways. So I want us to take just a pause, and I want to give us 5 minutes because I know that some folks, okay, we're broadcasting this in your classroom. I want to give you a chance to be able to work together and talk a little bit. But in the next 5 minutes, and I'll set a timer and come back for us, we are going to do the following. We're going to select a sustainable development goal that's up here on your screen that you just feel the most interested in. You don't need to do all your background research right now. We just need you to select one that you are excited to learn more about. And after you select that one, I want you to try as best as you can in 5 minutes, identify 3 ways that agriculture connects to that goal. It doesn't have to solve the goal. It doesn't have to be the number one issue within that goal, just a way that it connects in some way, shape, or form. So that's my prompt that I'm going to release to y'all for 5 minutes, and we're gonna circle back in just a couple of brief moments for a follow-up to this. So I'm gonna start my stopwatch here.
Great. Okay, so the prompt is you're going to select your favorite SDG, the one that interests you the most, and somehow you're going to figure out how you can connect that SDG to 3 ways in agriculture. So I'm going to go ahead and do this myself too while we're watching this and while we're doing this. So I don't know which one's my favorite though. I like them all. So
no, it's hard for me to look back into it then as well. No, I'm going to play some random music I just found because I ran out of time to explore your music recommendation. So you let me know if it comes through okay on your end.
Okay.
So maybe you got anything?
I heard it for a second, but now I don't hear it. And while we're doing this too as well, I also would like to just recognize that Bonnie has joined us. I know that he doesn't have his video on, but we're excited to have Bonnie here. Bonnie is joining us from Uganda, from Garin Academy, which is up and thriving. So welcome, Bonnie. I just wanted to say hello.
Yeah.
Thank you
Welcome,
so
Bob.
much, Jonah. Yeah, I've joined, though I came in late, but the network was kind of a bit disturbing. But finally, I'm here.
Fantastic. So we're just doing a little activity here where we're thinking about the SDGs and making a connection to agriculture. So you're going to think about one of the SDGs and 3 ways that it connects to agriculture.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay. We can't hear any music, but if you want me to, I can go ahead and share some music if you would like.
That would be awesome. I think I'm just not hitting the correct button. So if you have some music that you'd love to play, let's go ahead and listen to it.
All right. I am going to play one of my favorite longtime friends of Global Lighthouse, David Fidel. So those of you who have been longtime people with Global Lighthouse Studios. I'm trying to pull it up here on YouTube. David Fidel is not only a composer, but we are very excited to have him as a member of our community. So he plays wonderful music. And so this is from his album called Across Oceans. And so let me see if it'll let me share my screen. Let's see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit.
Take about a few more minutes, and then we'll keep rocking and rolling, exploring agriculture and sustainable development goals. Getting to like our last 10 seconds, folks. So we're actually discussing this right now in our class or wherever we're at. So wrap up these conversations, bring them back in. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall on some of the different conversations that I'm sure were happening, or even just to see some of the different connections that were made. So we just got to explore briefly, hey, these are these just different sustainable development goals. We could spend hours upon hours on an individual goal. So this is really just the design of this is to be the tip of the iceberg. But hey, we have not interacted with this before. We haven't explored agriculture before either. I'd love for this to be a starting point. So in the second half, I'm going to give you a little bit more about, hey, what does the Global Teach Ag Network do? But also, how can you continue exploring agriculture and food and these sustainable concepts? So let's talk about it. As we talk about this and dive in, I want to connect back to that same report from UNESCO that we were talking about. So they not only had people identify challenges, but for each challenge they identified, they tasked them with a couple of follow-up prompts. One of them being a starting point. So in the second half, I'm going to give you a little bit more about, hey, what is the global? Oh, good. But in that second half, they gave them a couple different prompts. One of those prompts being, what about solutions? Like, what solutions do you have? And they had a listing of different things that they asked people to rank and prioritize. Education was the thing that in this report came out as the top thing that's going to be a solution to these global challenges as a whole. And that connects to our Sustainable Development Goal number 4 of quality education. But there's a lot of different ways that we can do this and explore this. So one of the main things about the Global Teach Ag Network is the fact that we think in order for quality education to happen, we need to empower educators to do that work. So if you have more interest in learning about the Global Teach Ag Network, you can reach out to us via our website, globalteachagnetwork.psu.edu, and explore different programs that we have offered for professional development opportunities for educators. We have a global community for educators as well. We believe, hey, if we invest in them, we invest in educators, then they can also invest in students and connect them to global challenges and hopefully be people that are working to solve these global issues. We serve as a connection point of different teachers and educators, with agriculture being that central grain where we see it intersecting a whole bunch of different disciplines and issues and goals. So if we want to address these global goals, we think it takes everybody, but we think agriculture can be a common language for us to come together and address these different issues. And just to mention that piece, like, hey, we believe agriculture is an essential component to this, and we desire to see these global challenges addressed. We didn't just start the Global Teach Ag Network just because we thought it was a cool idea. We saw global problems and said, how can we be a part of these solutions to working towards a more sustainable world that is combating climate change, is halting biodiversity loss, is contributing to a more peaceful world with less violence and less inequality, and working towards food security and water quality and all these different things. That's a tip of the iceberg of what we do. Once again, please visit our website if you want to learn more. Feel free to reach out to me through the contact us part of our website as well. But I want to give us a couple more prompts of, okay, if we're just learning about agriculture for the first time, how can we learn more about agriculture? I wanted to put some bullet points on here of ways that I've learned about agriculture throughout my years. So I grew up on a farm that led me to, when I got to high school, say, okay, I want to learn more about different parts of agriculture. So that's that formal school-based agricultural education that I have written up there. If anybody's ever seen the blue corduroy jackets with the FFA emblem and logo, that's the student leadership organization that's embedded into our agricultural education classes in the United States. And there's school-based agricultural education all across the world too. So if you're watching this in a classroom, across the world, I'd be curious to know, what does school-based ag education look like in your country? Dr. Dana Foster, one of the co-founders of the Global Teach Ag Network, just finished up a scoping visit and is currently on a plane flying back to the United States. But he finished up a scoping visit in Uganda. And what was fascinating for him to learn is there are more agriculture teachers in schools in Uganda than there are in the United States. Now, Uganda, surface area-wise, or landmass-wise,
Okay, let me say something a bit.
National curriculum, and agriculture is very important to their culture there and livelihood. So there's more agriculture teachers there than the U.S. So
yeah, and I know Bonnie can speak to that since he's there in Uganda. So
Basically, in Uganda, like 95% of the population depends on agriculture. And where I come from, let me say like 99% of the population depends on agriculture, because even if someone has another profession, but still depends on agriculture, he has agriculture, can find someone like maybe he's a teacher, but before going to teach in the school, early in the morning, first goes to his garden to do his agriculture farming, and after classes again come back to agriculture. So in my country, and mainly where I come from, so we grew up with, we start teaching our kids about agriculture when they are young, before even going to school. And by the time they go to school, one of the main subjects, in fact, nowadays agriculture is like compulsory in most of the schools, because it's a backbone of the country, backbone of our lives. It's our main source of income as a country and as a region. So it's a main subject being taught here, and it's in every school.
Yeah, and it makes sense that it should be. in a similar concept of like, hey, like agriculture is a foundation of our society and how we can then like have these different careers because we have a sustainable food supply or that we have a food supply. I got the privilege of getting to study abroad in Malaysia, and the way that they have structured their agriculture training program at universities for future teachers, future teachers are going to train agriculture, they refer to them as life skills teachers, viewing agriculture as an essential life skill. Do you know where your food comes from? Do you know how to grow food? Can we instruct others about agriculture? Because yeah, similarly, Malaysia, it's like, hey, how interconnected is our culture to agriculture? And it is, it's very connected. But that is something like when we look at the US and certain other countries, that gap's increasing a little bit, where we can accidentally get a little bit removed from our food supply. And it's essential to understand it, but also to think of it when we're trying to tackle these large problems. So, Bonnie, thank you for sharing that. So, if we're looking for ways to learn more about ag, we can see, does our school offer classes? So the school we currently attend, if we're in secondary school or going to be in secondary school in the future, are there classes there? Or if we're going to pursue higher education at the post-secondary level, are there courses there? Even if it's not your intended degree of study, are there different courses you can take? An example here at Penn State is a science, literacy, and policy course that's also fun, like based in agriculture, where it brings different agricultural examples up. And that's open to students from the entire university who take that for different general education credits, but also get to learn a little bit more about agriculture and how science connects to what we're doing in agriculture. And some different examples too that I'd love for us to explore is different community programs within the US. We have the extension programs through land-grant universities such as Penn State, that their role and job and hope is how do we disseminate information to the public? And I know there's similar but different systems all across the world that they're running community programs related to agriculture and food and nutrition. You can learn on the job. If you want to do an internship, I learned a lot about agriculture working on the farm myself growing up. You can find somebody in your community that is working in agriculture and just sit down and have a conversation with them. Or you can do some independent research, look up things on the Food and Agriculture Organization website or different places. And you could reach out to the Global Teach Ag Network as well to try, like if you're just wondering where to start, we're happy to point you in different directions with different contacts that we have across the globe. And the other piece I do want to make sure that I bring up, because once again, I get excited about this. I get excited about, hey, we talk about global challenges, we talk about how we address them, we talk about the sustainable development goals, talk about education as a solution, but how do we work towards action? Now, I stole this model from marketing that is mostly focused on how do you make sales. So like it starts with an awareness of the brand, and then people have interest in it, and then there's a desire to purchase the product with the actual end action of being, oh, they bought the thing that you wanted. So this translates a little bit human psychology wise into us as humans, where I'm hopeful that for some of us, this is either an awareness piece or an interest piece into, hey, there's global challenges. Education's part of the solution. Agriculture can be part of the solution. So how do we eventually move towards that action piece? I think for us, in order to get to that desire and then action, we need to explore it just a little bit more. So I want to leave you with some places that you can go moving forward to learn more. You can do like explore the things I just said, the Food and Agriculture Organization website being one of them. You can go to the Sustainable Development Goals website within the United Nations framework. FFA.org has different resources as well. They also have worked with this Ag Explorer program that lets you see different careers in agriculture depending on your interests. And I can share that link with Donna as well. I should have pulled that ahead of time. But if we're talking about things that we can do next, we can learn more. We can talk with our friends and colleagues just about, hey, these are global challenges. What can we do about it? And then potentially start a project. So I know Bonnie is interested in, how does he start a school garden? I've seen that with a variety of different success throughout different programs in the US where students have an interest and they're like, hey, like we want to start this. And they talk to different teachers, regardless of if they have an agriculture program at that school or not. It could be with the biology teacher, environmental science teacher, a variety of different teachers at the school, and say, hey, we want to start a garden. as a way to help provide nutritious food either for our school or work with the local food bank or different things like that, and continue exploring, focusing on global challenges through our own work and studies. So just a couple of ideas of what we could do next. And I want to give us just one more prompt as we wrap up. And then I know I'm hearing us stick around just for some more questions, but two things I'd love for us to do. And so to tackle the first one first, and then to go into the second one. The first thing, I want to just think of one way that we could leave here and learn more about agriculture. So that could be, doing your own research or talking to somebody, or maybe you're looking up and seeing where's a place that I could take a class in agriculture. So I want us to try to do that first thing. And the second piece is I want us to identify just one action step, one action item or idea that we have that we could work towards addressing one of these global challenges in the future. So where can we learn more about ag, and what's one idea we have to address a global challenge that we talked about here? Donna, could I pitch it back to you to get some of our lovely music playing again as well?
Absolutely. So I'm just putting your questions up here so I can show them on the bottom, and then I will go ahead and share some more beautiful music from Mr. David Fidel. So just 1 second.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
I want to show you how we use his Angel Sense assistive technology to promote
About 2 more minutes, folks. 2 more minutes. It's with the music fading out. This feels like a good time to wrap and segue. I know that there's a bunch of different ways that we could try to address these different global challenges in our communities. And I know it's hard when I just give you a couple minutes to say, hey, how do you go tackle this? But hopefully there's at least a shell of an idea that is in the back of our minds that we can run with in the future. Maybe we don't take immediate action on it. Maybe it's a seed that's planted for right now and grows later to be a full functioning project and a way to impact your local community. As we finish, just want to leave space open for any questions. I know that it was a little bit of a journey and a lot of information coming once. We talked about some different global challenges, asked us to explore the sustainable development goals, and then talked a little bit more about, hey, how do we learn about agriculture, which connects a whole bunch of these different issues. But while I'm here on, these little digital boxes, I'd love to answer questions. If there's questions that have come through, that would be helpful for me to talk about.
Great. Bonnie, I wanted to toss it over to you because I know we were just in discussion just a day or two ago talking about how you have a dream to build a school garden on Garin Academy's property there in Uganda. So this would be a great time for you to ask any questions maybe about how to get started, or if you want to just talk a little bit about your school. Oh, not sure if Bonnie's still there. Well, just to give you a little background, I did talk to Bonnie the other day, and as I mentioned, they opened Garin Academy just in February with about 200 students, and now they are about 550 students. And so they're looking and hoping to be able to build a school garden because right now, apparently in Uganda is planting season. So it's now over the next month or so. And so maybe you could just give a couple of quick tips of things that you are necessary or needed to be able to start a school garden.
I mean, thinking of school gardens, one, I think it's awesome of the fact that that's a really cool way to connect your students and learners to the concept of agriculture and food production because they get to see it. Like, it's not just theory. You get to see, hey, when I water these or overwater them, what happens? Or do they have the right nutrients? All these different things. So first off, if anybody out there is interested in a school garden, I would certainly recommend exploring it. My personal experience, I had a garden at home, but never one that was like at a school setting. I know some things that are essential is having the plan before you start making significant progress in the garden. And that both includes hey, what supplies are we going to need? How much are they going to cost? Where are we going to have the garden? But also the plans of who's going to be involved. Like, are we going to lean into some community members and their knowledge and have some of them who are willing to volunteer their time to make sure that this garden is successful? Are there different classes that are going to be involved? How do we share, space within the garden? Is it just one classroom or is it multiple? So it's always easier to think of those or try to think of those as best you can ahead of time before you end up in the spot where it's like, well, now we have the garden, but we're all competing for time in the garden and who's teaching in the garden when and all those different things. The other piece I'd say, and I would lean on the expertise of others who have done this work more intentionally than me, is Bonnie, if you're interested, we'd love to have you in our community space where I know there's other educators that have done this before that would love to share both the good of what's happened and things that has went wrong that they would love to avoid. And I think that's a central key and component here too, is a lot of times we have these awesome ideas and we have the learning experiences ourselves when we go through it, but how do we share those with others? And that's part of what our digital community tries to do, is to share mistakes that have been made so other people don't replicate them, but also just the wins and successes. So I have some people that are coming to mind that I'd love to connect you to as well.
Wonderful. Bonnie, are you there or did we lose you? Okay. But I believe that.
Yes, I'm there.
Oh, yes. Hi, Bonnie. We were just saying, Thomas was saying what a great idea it would be for you to join the Global Teach Ag community and, reach out to people that have done this before. And I know Can you talk a little bit about, Thomas, the work you're doing in Uganda this summer? I believe you're having some teachers head down there. And
Sure thing. So as part of a U.S. Department of Agriculture grant that we currently on, it's Fulbright Hayes grant, we are taking a group of 12 teachers, U.S. teachers, to Uganda to partner with 4 different schools in Uganda, where our goal is not to, hey, just come in and say, hey, here's how you need to teach. That's not what we're doing. We're doing the opposite. We're learning from them, and they're saying, hey, here are our needs. How can you help us create something that's long-term and sustainable? So we're working on different projects and trying to bring the agricultural knowledge that we have to help support them. Where at one school, we're going to help start up a piggery of like, hey, how do we and our students help to raise pigs on site at the farm and grow them and produce, and different one on poultry. There's a different one on urban farming. I think the last one's on aquaculture. I could be, or rabbitry. One about aquaculture was the last project we did. I think rabbitry's this year with those. But we're also partnered with an organization, Field of Hope, that does work with teacher professional development and farmer professional development in country in Uganda. But that's the scoping visit that our co-founder, Dr. Daniel Foster, was just on, was visiting those different schools, and he's super excited about the schools that we're partnered with. But the hope and the long-term plan for these is that, hey, there's student projects existing at these schools that our U.S. teachers just get to help implement, but also that these U.S. teachers are able to stay connected to these schools in Uganda and keep learning together. And we've seen some of that from the last time we were able to do an experience like this, where we have John Davis, who's a teacher in North Carolina, who helped some of these Uganda schools get I believe that was the aquaculture project started, where his students at his school in North Carolina are still connected with those students in Uganda, and they're sharing ideas back and forth. So yeah, that's one example of the experiences we get to run. And we post those updates, and when we have new experiences like that on our website, and have open calls for applications for different educators. We went in the past to Korea and Malaysia. This is our second go around at Uganda. So we're always looking for ways that we can have impactful experiences like this for our educators and teachers.
that's wonderful. So head on over to their website. I have it posted there, and you can go ahead and join the community. I know that Global Lighthouse Studios is excited to be a partner with them, and we're looking forward to all the future collaborations that we will have. Thomas, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your knowledge. And until next time, everyone, we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.